Hello, this is Virtual the Chess Noob, learning and having fun with chess. Today I played a game where I had a mouse slip on move 1. I'd just woken up and made the mistake of playing a game before I had my morning coffee. My opponent with the white pieces played e4 and I responded with e5. At least I tried to. I ended up playing e6, which is the French defense, something that I don't normally play and no theory. Although not the most auspicious start, I somehow did okay. Please enjoy. Let's start with the review. So very balanced at the beginning, and then I managed to take the lead and almost completely lose my advantage and somehow managed to clinch the win. So neither of us played a especially accurate game. I 70%, opponent pretty close, 65, no, 66, basically 70. Reasonably similar number of good moves. We each had some inaccuracies and poor moves, and we each shared some blunders as well. So, as per the chess.com bot, a sharp game. Now let's have a look at the analysis. In this game, I played with the black pieces, opponent white, and opponent led with e4. And my usual response to e4, as you've seen, is e5. And in this game, I mouse slipped and played e6. And as soon as I made that move, I went, oh, it's the French. I don't know the French. Oh, well, I suppose we'll see what will happen. And the opponent, of course, takes a full center, which is completely expected. I play d5. So I think the logic of the French is to play that move. Potentially there may be a trade. Opponent advanced to e5. So I think this is, the advanced variation of the French defense. Here I thought, why not? Let's play c5. Now, obviously, that pawn is protected by the bishop. So taking control of the center, potentially building up a pawn chain. This can't be too bad. It's actually is equal. Opponent forms their pawn chain. Here, I had a long thought. Well, when I say long thought, it was actually a pretty short thought. How long did I take? No, so almost a minute. Now, in this game, I actually only spent about 4.5 minutes before the game was won. The opponent, I think, only spent about 2 minutes. So that was a long thought for this game. So a minute. I thought that this was logically probably the best move. But, just for the symmetry of things, given that I'd already, in my mind, had already stuffed up the opening a bit, why not? Why not just close it? And that's what I ended up doing. So that is not the best move. So with c4, that actually gives some significant benefits to white. Nonetheless, that's what it was. They played knight a3, which apparently would bring us back to equality. I didn't want the knight hopping into b5, so I opted to push the a6 pawn, which again sort of cedes some advantage to white. Now, this is where I really don't know the French at all. Interesting that Stockfish reckons to just zap the knight right away. That's interesting, isn't it? Because I wouldn't have thought necessarily that was such a great move, given that all my pawns are on light squares, and so giving up the dark squared bishop doesn't seem right. But Stockfish knows best, I suppose. Now the opponent sort of brings their sort of knight, so rotates their knight to c2, which apparently was the right move, and I suppose that there was a logic in that sequence. I now play knight e7, thinking sort of to develop the knight in this direction. Opponent plays knight f3. I now play knight f5. So still good, but again, advantage to white. So almost +1. Opponent plays bishop e2. I develop my other knight to c6. Here they play bishop g5, and I can see the logic here with all their pawns on dark squares. There's an opportunity for them to potentially trade off the dark square bishop. So that makes sense to me. So here I thought I'll pull sort of the knight, so the c knight, so knight c e7. I expected them to potentially capture and trade, and that's what happened. I was potentially okay with that because that allowed me also to develop my bishop. So bishop e7 capturing the knight. Now we're sort of moving back towards equality. Opponent pushes their G pawn. Stockfish says is excellent. I'm not so sure about that because it looks like they were planning on castling in that direction. Surely that actually weakens the defenses of the king. And that knight can sort of simply move out of the way in that sense, inviting potentially a trade. Of course, that's supported by that bishop, and things and with sort of that pawn, weakening the defense. This isn't. I didn't think that was a good position for the opponent. Opponent captures knight, I capture back. It's very interesting to me to see that this is apparently almost equal. I would have thought that this was actually bad for white. Again, Stockfish knows best. Stockfish knows best. Now the opponent now makes a bad move by sort of playing King F1. I wonder whether or not that was supposed to be was that supposed to be a short castles? That was a mouse slip. Who knows? However, I do a short castle now, and basically I thought now this square has potentially lots of potential. Okay, so I've won control of that square, and I in fact potentially want to trade off that pawn to open up the F file for my rook. They push another pawn, F4, so I was really pushing their pawns forward. Again, I didn't think that was necessarily a good move. The defense of the king is already weakened. It's weakened further. Now F6, they chose not to take. Knight, sure. Now captures, so that opens up the file now for me. Potentially a capture further with check. So there we go, capture with check. Block with bishop, so bishop f3. My plan was now to move queen over, so apparently that was the better move. I can sort of understand why that might be the case. So I thought things were looking pretty good. Opponent makes a good move, so king g2, and at this point I simply miscalculate. I just simply miscalculate. I thought that next move the queen here, I'll be able to take that bishop. I thought opponent can't capture with queen because I'll capture back, and of course with the king, move the king to g2. Now there's of course an extra defender. I was very sleepy, didn't count properly, captures, and then capture that. Oh, of course, I can't really capture back. Well, I suppose I could capture back, but I didn't want to capture back, I suppose. So in this position, I opted not to capture back. I thought potentially that there was, I could maybe move my bishop to c6, and then that pawn would be a sort of a nice discovered check. And even if they moved the queen out of the way, it would be a skewer against the rook. So I thought this was potentially pretty good. So I moved the bishop to d7 simultaneously, meaning that if the opponent wanted to trade queens, I could then bring my rook to control the f file as well. So I thought that was potentially good. Interesting. Stockfish reckons just queen captures queen was best. Interesting positions. The Stockfish evaluation doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense to me, but again, Stockfish is usually right. And at this point, the opponent opted not to capture and thought that they would move their queen out of the way, and they make a one-move blunder because the next move, and they resigned immediately, pretty much immediately after that move. As you can see, I played for 4.5 minutes. I played for just under 2. What this means is the next move, I have, of course, checkmate. So that's why that was a one-move blunder. But even prior to the blunder, I thought I was in a reasonably good position if I didn't just in a very silly way trade my rook for a bishop. Anyway, a short game, a good game. GG to the opponent. This game ended up being more fun and interesting than anticipated. Against e4, I typically play e5, which often results in either an Italian, Giuoco Piano, or Ruy Lopez, games that I don't do so well against when I'm playing with the black pieces. Recently, I've experimented against the Italian by playing the two knights defense, inviting the opponent to play the fried liver, and then me playing the Traxler Countergambit. However, I've had a terrible record when using the Traxler. It seems that opponents who play the fried liver know the theory better than me. Although my win was the was ultimately the result of my opponent blundering a mate in one in response to my own egregious blunder. I was actually in a pretty good position before the blunder. I should probably be fully caffeinated prior to early morning sleepy games, but regardless, the French might be a potential future response to e4. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.